Yo, the Boozoo, I gotta know what you was on, bro. What is this? Before we hop in this review of Chapter 17 of Fortnite the Apocalypse, please do me a favor and leave your own thoughts on the chapter in the comment section down below. Leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Also, make sure you hit that little notification bell so you don't miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Now, let's get into it. What's up, guys? I got the pencil here, and here we are to review Chapter 17 of Fortnite of the Apocalypse. And this chapter is known as the confrontation with evil. And honestly, this chapter was kind of heat, so let's hop right on into it. So we open up with Sin being like, yo, y'all go stop him. I'm gonna go do something shady off screen because I'm Sin and I'm shady off screen. So he runs off to go do something shady off screen, and Anne's like, this fuck's a whole liar, bruh. But hey, I don't blame her. I don't trust Sin, and I don't even have true seeing powers, but Anne apparently does. So she's just confirming my suspicions. And honestly, I really am wondering what Sin is now. A lot of y'all have been talking about like a holy knight in disguise. One of y'all brought up the interesting idea that he could possibly be like a holy knight made by Arthur, and like every single individual Fortnite the Apocalypse has one of them and is like guiding them around. That's very interesting. That could be very, very cool. I want to know what Sin is, because Anne just straight up confirms that he does have a secret that he's hiding and not telling them, and I need to know what it is because I really don't trust this little fox man because he seems way too shady. But there we go. Sin runs off, and then everyone else moves on out towards the center of the town in order to get to that Big Papa Ironside to get rid of him, because he is being a whole menace right now. So much of a menace that Sin actually warns them before they go off for Percival to not try and fight him, because Percival will lose that fight, and I'm really intrigued to see how Sin knows that. Maybe my man does know a little bit more, but he can probably just sense magic, which I don't think the others can do, because they don't seem to be able to tell how strong Ironside is from him just standing there, which seems kind of weird, but I completely understand. None of them have much exposure to magic, so maybe they just don't know what it's like to sense it. However, they do get a little taste of it later, but we'll get to that when we get to that. And another thing we have to know is that Percival's body just moved on its own to go save Anne, and Anne's a whole tsundere for a 0.5 seconds because she says, I didn't even ask for your help. But thank you though, and I like that. That's good to see. But I mean, like, y'all were talking about how Anne is like the new Elizabeth and how she's going to be Percival's love interest, and how technically it's canon that Anne is Percival's love interest within Arthurian mythology. And while I'm fine with that, you know, it's cool to have love interests. Please don't Elizabeth Anne, don't Diane Anne, don't Merlin Anne. Like, please let her be useful 100% of the time throughout. Let her love with Percival, if that's going to be a thing, just be a thing that's part of their characters, not the entire thing of Anne's character. Please, I beg of you. She's too cool with that umbrella rapier. But regardless of that, we keep going and we get to see everyone explain themselves to each other. Well, really, Anne and Percival were giving each other the rundown on each other. And Percival goes on to explain how he is with Donnie and Ossians, and he's wondering why Ironside even knows Anne's dad. Like, what's the relationship there? And Anne explains that Ironside knew Anne's dad when he was young, and that does lead a lot into the idea that y'all were talking about, where Anne's mom was very likely a holy knight that worked for Arthur that had to get killed by Ironside or something like that, because why else would they know each other? I know, like, her dad is a lord and stuff like that, but even still, it seems like a very weird connection for them to know each other since they were young, unless there was some previous connection there. And hopefully we get to see some more of that. Hopefully this isn't just like a offhand detail that we're getting sent into the world. But another weird thing to note is that Anne mentions the fact that Ironside wanted to marry her off to his son, and she just assumes that her son must be as bad as Ironside himself, like, you know, the failures of the father fall directly onto the son. And Percival doesn't say anything. I feel like that's a little bit, I mean, I guess it makes sense because you wouldn't want to like ruin the mood or something like that. But I feel like Percival's an obvious enough guy who reacts to things so quickly and wouldn't even think about the repercussions. I feel like he would have said, oh, well, sucks to suck because I'm his son and I'm trying to get revenge. Because he explains that Ironside did in his gramps, but I don't know. It seems weird that he goes on to hide that. And now it makes me wonder, if Anne looks at Percival, will he no longer be pure because he's hiding a very, very big secret from her? I feel like she should be looking at him with like extra skepticism now, because the black dots should have appeared around him because he's not telling her the truth and everyone else is hiding it from her. But who knows? Maybe that's not the case. Maybe Percival's purity still remains intact. We won't get to see that for a while, or at least I'm assuming so. I think she is going to realize so quickly that this won't even be a relevant thing. But anyway, we hop over to Ironside, who is activating the coffin. I actually like seeing the coffin getting activated because it's showing the similar language that Hendrickson used long ago in order to get rid of the coffin by just doing the opposite. He's activating it. It's very interesting to see that this still isn't the language that Merlin's real name is in. I honestly wonder what Merlin's real name is, and if that plot point is actually a plot point and that language is actually a language, or just a thing that Nakaba ended up retconning later because he kind of forgot about it, which I wouldn't be surprised. He forgets a lot of things when he's writing his stories, and I feel like he may have retconned Merlin's character for some reason, so I don't think that language is ever going to come back. So I'm kind of sad about that, but who knows? At the same time, this language that Ironside's speaking is very interesting because he's able to speak it, and he's seemingly speaking it into like the thing on his hand. I'm not sure if that's specific or it's just the hand motions he has to do. Regardless, it's super interesting to see, and we get to see the coffin sort of like leak out of the ground. The effects of it are darkness, which makes sense, coffin of eternal darkness, and it's leaking out, and the dark bubbles that leak out of the ground when Ironside's summoning it land on the town, and they possess certain things, like they take over houses, they take over the ground itself, and they create these gigantic monsters that go out to collect the blood and the souls of the humans there. And the interesting thing is the idea that this had to happen in the celestial realm, because all the goddesses sacrificed their bodies, not their souls apparently, but their bodies, for the coffin to activate last time. But like, was it really this horrifying? Did the supreme deity really just pop off with this, and she said, "My loyal creations, please just hold this L real quick and be consumed by these creatures"? Like, I don't know, this seems very, very interesting, but maybe they aren't directly killing them. I don't see them directly going on the attack. Maybe they're bringing them to Ironside, bringing them to the coffin to be sacrificed, but I don't know. It looks like these things are just going to consume the townspeople, consume the town, and be done with it. It's very strange, but it's also very dark. It makes you wonder what the situation looked like thousands of years ago in the goddess realm, when they had to go through all this for the last time the coffin of eternal darkness was used. Very, very interesting, I'm not gonna lie. And we get to see that Ironside's ordering his familiar, guiding these creatures around to go destroy things and stuff like that, and make sure that not a single sacrifice escapes. And I'm just super intrigued, like, what is the level of sentience to this familiar? Because with Taliskir's familiar, we couldn't really tell anything, because Taliskir's basically called it a puppet, let it die, and kept it moving. But this one seems to be able to shapeshift. It has sentience. It seems way stronger than Taliskir, which lines up to Ironside being way stronger than Taliskir, as we get revealed later on in the chapter. But the thing is, I don't know, super interesting. I wonder if this familiar is going to have like any sort of character, if it's going to grow independent from Ironside or something like that, if it is already independent from Ironside, or if it's just like a temporary thing to be used for this situation only, or like little situations it'll never have anything of its own. I don't know. I feel like it's too sentient to not be used in a special way, especially with the way Nakaba writes things. He typically does a lot of weird little things with little side characters that you wouldn't expect a lot to happen with. Like, look at Hawk, look at Oslo, look at any of like the little pet characters from the previous series. Look at Sin right now. I feel like this familiar may be a little bit useful, especially considering how humane it seems. However, then we have a coloring error. I don't know, like, Anne, it's just, her dress is just not colored in. And the thing is, I know it's a coloring error and not just a lighting thing, because it's colored in on the top right panel, it's not colored in the middle panel at all, and it's very noticeable, and then it's colored in on the bottom. Nakaba, maybe you do need some assistance, bro, I'm not gonna lie. But still, regardless of that, we get to see that despite the fact that everyone's being sacrificed to the monsters, Percival's like, he believes in Sin. He believes Sin is going to help save them. And I'm very interested to see what Sin does, if we do get to see what Sin does in the next chapter. I maybe not in the next chapter. I feel like we may get it the chapter after that. Like, they're going to do something to Ironside and he's going to have to retreat, or they're going to get the coffin and they're going to be running away, and Sin's going to reveal that everything's fine because of Sin's magic thing. And I can't wait to see what that is, because Sin, you're shady, but I do believe in you, I will admit. I'm on that Percival type mentality. I do believe in Sin, the little shady fox. I don't think he wants this. I still think he does want to protect the people somewhat. And Anne's dress isn't colored in here either. What the heck? I don't know. Maybe this is just the scan I'm reading, and it just seems weird. Nakaba, I don't usually catch you lacking like this. Like, I can catch other people lacking pretty often, but Nakaba, you're usually good with your artwork, buddy. What's happening here? The artwork still looks great, I'm not gonna lie, but it's just weird that he didn't color it in. I don't know. I'm catching and lacking, bro. Maybe this chapter was right. Okay, enough of that. But we move on and get to see that regardless of Anne's power, regardless of the fact that Sin's very likely hiding something, Percival and the gang are still gonna trust the little talking fox, because even Donnie and Nasians are like, whatever, we know that Fox is shady, he has something going on, but he's pulled through before, we'll take care of this. So the gang runs up, they find Anne's father knocked out but not dead, so he'll be fine, and then they get to see Big Papa Ironside himself, and he's stanced up, chilling there like, Percival, trust me, buddy, if I did not have this coffin of eternal darkness calling my name right here at this very moment, I would turn around and smite you myself. I 100% believe it, because Percival and the gang like threaten him, like, if you don't stop this ritual right now, we'll take the coffin from you, we'll stop it, we'll do whatever we can. And Ironside's like, and why do you phrase it like that? And instantly just flexes on them, like, with his back turned. This is a thing I really enjoy about Ironside, because honestly, one thing that the original Seven Deadly Sins villains always lacked to me was like a sense of real presence. Like, nothing really intimidated our sins to the point where they were like shaking, shocked, or like in true worry or fear. Like, the commandments did that, but the thing is, Galen did it in a way that wasn't really pure intimidation. He was much more Pelgard-like, where he was like intimidating in the fact that he was so powerful, but he had too much of a playful personality and like a more relaxed, fun-loving personality to be truly intimidating. And every other group the Sins ran into, they sort of just like body bagged or were scared of, but not like, oh no, this being's like overwhelmingly powerful scared of. Like, they didn't hesitate to fight. Meanwhile, Anne, Nasians, Donnie, they're all just paralyzed. They're shocked by Ironside's true power, which they've been sleeping on for all this time. And Anne's like, straight up, I know that I need to move and stop him, but I literally can't. My body's not obeying my commands out of sheer survival instinct. And I love that, where a villain that is really ready and willing to kill our cast is standing right there, and our cast, due to their natural human nature, do not want to encounter it. Like, even with his back turned, he has no opening. That's so cool. I love seeing characters like that, where they've just like eclipsed this level of the heroes so far that the heroes don't even want to step up and fight them. And the great thing is that Percival tries to ruin the moment. He tries to ruin the swagger that Ironside's carrying right now, and he tries to slam his big old magic hand right down on top of Ironside. But Ironside simply parts it with 2 fingers and says, you need to be taught some discipline. And whew, I love it. I love that Ironside is an actual plausible threat that makes even Talisker's magic look like nothing. And to be fair, while Talisker was fodder to Percival, Talisker wasn't fodder of himself. My man was summoning whole hailstorms, he was summoning lightning storms. That's serious good stuff to have chilling with you. It really is. But Ironside makes Talisker look like a baby. And while Percival did straight up slap up Talisker, it seems like the gap between Talisker and Ironside is so wide that Percival will not be able to mollywop his father, and I'm super excited. This was a great chapter. I love the build up. While I do wish we kind of hopped into the action, I definitely understand what this chapter was needed for. It was to establish the threat. It was to show more of the Coffin of Eternal Darkness. It was specifically build up. It was supposed to get us ready for chapter 18 and the big battle that's about to ensue. And honestly, I'm super excited for it, mainly because I'm interested to see how our gang's powers interact, especially since none of the gang seems to be on the level of Percival, and Percival doesn't even seem to be on the level of Ironside. And their main objective truly isn't fighting Ironside, but as we can see, their strongest member with one of their biggest attacks, which is the gigantic magic hand, was stopped by 2 fingers with Ironside not even looking at them. This is going to be a very interesting fight, because honestly, this fight has a lot of unique stipulations. One, the fight isn't really a fight. It's more so a snatch the memorial thing, or snatch the coffin idea. And even then, we don't know what effect that's going to have. Like, will that make the monsters go away now? Because they're kind of everywhere. And what will really happen if the coffin's ritual is interrupted? We have no clue. But still, the main goal is to seal that away. But the main enemy to that goal is Big Daddy Ironside. And Big Daddy Ironside, even with his back turned, is a whole menace. So their whole goal really is to snatch the coffin and run, but they don't know what's going to happen if they snatch the coffin. They don't know if they're going to be able to snatch the coffin. And while this is technically a 4v1, they're all fodder to the Big Daddy. And I have no idea why I keep calling him Big Daddy. That sounds so awkward. But really, I'm super intrigued to see how this is going to go, because this is a game of fetch, basically, except instead of someone throwing a stick and a dog going to chase it, it's 4 idiots working together to try and stop the big idiot who is super powerful compared to them. And who knows, maybe the familiar will come back with some of the monsters. Like, this fight could be very, very interesting. And honestly, I'm super intrigued with what Sin's gonna do. This chapter is very much build up. Not much really happens in it. We just get back to the same point we left off with last chapter, with the ritual going off and the gang having the same objective to stop it. But this chapter brings a whole ton of new enlightenment to the idea. We have no idea what the coffin's going to be doing. We have no idea how the coffin functions. We know that Dabuzu was a whole menace when he made this thing, and we have the pure idea that this fight is going to be wild. I honestly can't wait to see it. That's the thing, there's so little to really go off of in this chapter because it's mostly build up. There's not much to discuss other than the fact that there are monsters now. The monsters are going to be attacking the civilians, and everyone's on a time limit now. They have to stop Ironside from completing the ritual. Ironside has to complete the ritual before they can stop him, and Sin is doing his own little thing in the background. Super interesting. Can't wait for next week's chapter. And honestly, this was a great chapter. Honestly, outside like the 2 coloring errors, I think 3 actually, but outside the few coloring errors, this chapter was still beautiful. This chapter has so many good moments for the characters in terms of like seeing Percival's trust in people and the people's trust in Percival, and then seeing how Anne's interacting with this new group that she's been forced to interact with, seeing Anne slowly begin to trust and develop a better understanding of these people that she's with, the possible start of the character tension between Anne and Percival, with how Percival is the son of Ironside, but he doesn't tell her that, and she has the whole ability to see truth, so she may see the possibility Percival is hiding something from her or lying to her. There's so many great interesting things that are brought up in this chapter that are great to see, basically on a character level and honestly on a lore level, seeing the language being used to activate the coffin and what the coffin does on its own. And honestly, it's also interesting to see that the coffin may just have like a charge up. Like, Ironside doesn't seem to be using it immediately. Like, he says fill the coffin with their blood and souls, but he's not saying he's going to use it immediately. So maybe like the coffin sort of has a charge to it. Like, once Ironside has it, it's not going to be immediately used. He's just going to put it back in the briefcase with the ability to activate it whenever he needs it, and then he's going to run off with it. And if that's the case, I'm super intrigued with where he's going to run off to and where he's going to use it. Because if he goes and seals off the demon realm again, I think you're going to need some more blood than that, buddy. But on top of that, I don't know. This is a chapter with so much interesting stuff towards build up. It has a few bits of hints of character stuff that could happen in the future and lore stuff that's happened in the past, which is now relevant to the present and future. Super good chapter. I love it. 10 out of 10. I know. I'm gonna be mean. I've been so like high praise of these last couple chapters, but it's just because we're in a very high intensity situation, and since I understand what the chapter is built for, I can completely let it slide that not much happens in this chapter plot wise, because so much happens character wise and lore wise. It's great, but tell me what you guys think of this chapter in the comment section down below. Thank you so much for watching. Please remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe, and make sure you hit that little notification bell so you don't miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Thank you guys once again for watching, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is That Guy with the Pencil, writing off.